The moment the sliding glass doors of the emergency room opened, the single father felt something inside him collapse, because nothing prepares a parent for the instant when their child suddenly can't breathe. And as he rushed through the bright, echoing hallway carrying his trembling little boy in his arms, he felt the entire world narrowing into one long corridor of fear, hope, and desperate prayers, long before he even reached the reception desk. And in that breathless stretch of panic, where every heartbeat felt louder than the sound of his footsteps, he whispered to his son that he wasn't going anywhere, that Daddy was right here, that everything would be okay, even though a terrible doubt clawed at the back of his mind. But he kept moving, kept running, because love gives you a strength you don't know you have until the moment you're forced to use it. And as nurses hurried toward him, guiding him to a room filled with sharp hospital lights and the beeping rhythm of machines, he swallowed the fear threatening to break him apart, watching his son's small chest rise and fall unevenly, every second feeling like it was slipping through his fingers. And he couldn't help thinking about all the late nights, all the stories, all the mornings when he, braiding the boy's hair the way his mom used to before life changed, before everything became about holding on and not letting the grief of being a single parent drown him. But now wasn't the time for memories. It was the time for hope. So he kept whispering strength into his son's ear as the nurse said, "The doctor on call is on the way." And in that instant, he prayed harder than he ever had, until suddenly the door opened and the father froze, because the doctor was the last person he ever expected to see, the woman who once meant everything to him, the woman he had loved, lost, and never fully stopped carrying inside his heart, the woman who had walked away years ago after life tore their paths apart. And yet here she was, standing in a white coat with a calm professionalism that barely hid the shock in her eyes as she whispered his name, like it was a memory she thought she had buried. And for a moment the room held its breath, but then she stepped forward, her focus sharpening as she moved straight to the boy. And in that instant, all history fell away as her instincts as a healer took command. She listened to the child's breathing, examined his throat, checked his pulse, and while she worked, she spoke gently to the boy, reassuring him with the same softness she once used on his father. And the father watched, torn between gratitude and a flood of emotions he didn't have the luxury to process right now, because the only thing that mattered was his son. And when she finally looked up, her voice steady and sure, she said, "He's going to be all right, but we have to act fast." And that one sentence cracked the father open inside, relief and fear tangling together. But he nodded with all the trust he had left in the world, watching her move with confidence and purpose, guiding the nurses, explaining every step, until the treatment began taking effect and the boy's breathing slowly steadied, each small improvement feeling like a miracle wrapped in oxygen. And as the beeping monitor softened into a calmer rhythm, the father felt his knees weaken, the weight of hours or years finally catching him, and he whispered thank you with a tremor he couldn't hide. But the doctor only gave a soft nod, her eyes glimmering with something unspoken, something old and aching. And when the boy finally opened his eyes, whispering, "Dad?" with a weak smile, the father gently pressed his forehead to his son's, letting the moment anchor him back to the world. And then, slowly, he looked at the doctor again, realizing that life has a strange way of circling back, stitching together moments that once seemed broken beyond repair. And as she stepped closer, hesitating like someone standing between past and present, she said softly, "We'll talk later. Right now, just be with him." And in that tender collision of old wounds and new hope, the father understood something he hadn't let himself believe for a long time, that life sometimes surprises you with healing from the most unexpected places, that sometimes the people you lose return not to reopen scars, but to help close them, and that sometimes the hardest nights carry the quiet beginnings of something beautiful, something whole, something waiting patiently beneath the fear, ready to rise the moment love is brave enough to look back and breathe again. And in that softly lit hospital room, surrounded by the steady heartbeat of machines and the fragile warmth of second chances. That is exactly what happened.